Hey everybody, it's week 11, or it will be week 11 when you watch this, or this refers to week 11, or whatever the case may be. In any case, this week is pretty straightforward. You've got some cool stuff in the new rules for business writing, and you are I guess the one thing that's a little different about this week is that you are going to be reading a variety of truths or sections in here, and they won't directly apply to this week's discussion post, which I normally try to do, but it just worked out better to do it this way. But it does certainly continue on from what we've been reading, and it gears you up for what we're doing in week 12. So it's still very relevant, and you still have reading in week 12, so don't let that, the fact that you will be doing writing in discussion post, dissuade you from getting caught up, because there are 5 truths that you're reading this week, and 5 next week as well. So get her done, as they say, and hopefully you're finding this book useful and easy to read and use. So week 11, what you'll be doing is I'm asking you to find an article that might be useful for your end of semester report proposal. So I've just asked you recently to update me on how that's going in progress report number 2, so you should have been thinking about this a little bit more. What I'm going to ask you to do for the discussion post is actually to use Google Scholar, and I know from previous semesters that not everyone has used that before. The web address, it's not a link, I guess I could make it a link. The web address is listed in the discussion post. It's really just scholar.google.com, and it's a very easy resource that that a lot of people don't know about until this assignment, in fact. You may have used it before, but if not, I hope that you find that it's something quite useful for not just our class, and future classes, but also in your day-to-day work life. Google Scholar is like Google searches the web, but it searches the web for peer-reviewed articles, and by that, what I mean by that is something like, I don't mean like peer review like we might do in an English class or a writing class, but peer review like the American Medical Association is considered a peer-reviewed journal, because a doctor can't just write an article about his or her research, but his or her peers in a similar field must read the article and verify that he or she has used appropriate, like experimental research methods, and just basically verifying that the research is solid and that the conclusions that the doctor has come to are reasonable. And so the American Medical Association has a journal, and it's a peer-reviewed journal, and that means that the article is not just from one doctor, but it's from one or more doctors and has been reviewed by somebody who has a similar background. So that's the kind of journal or articles that Google Scholar will help get. Obviously, you all have many different fields, but you will find that there are those kind of scholarly articles on all kinds of pretty much all fields. I can't think of a field that isn't covered in this way. Now, a few students have run into trouble. I've had maybe 2 or 3 each semester who run into trouble. They just, having the right keywords, you probably know from regular Google, is important, and sometimes folks run into having those right keywords or knowing where to start. So if you run into that kind of struggle, do send me an email and say, Tara, remember I'm writing about such and such, and I can't, just tell me what the problem is, because as I've said somewhere, either in a video or in one of these assignments that I've posted up, I think it's in the progress report too, I do know at least a little about a lot of things, and I know a lot about more things than you'd kind of expect. So feel free to shoot me an email. Obviously, this does mean that you might start a little bit earlier so that you're not shooting me that email, say, late on Tuesday afternoon, when I might not get it until Wednesday afternoon, and then, well, you know when the deadline is. So I think it's kind of fun to discover the great many resources that are out there, and Google Scholar is a great place to do that. There are other research methods, especially via the library, even our online library, and you should feel free to use that maybe for this assignment. If Google Scholar just is failing you miserably, but it really doesn't fail anybody miserably, so I'd really like you to try to use it. But if you find, hey, I want more things like this, our online or our librarians at University of Cincinnati are great, and they have online resources. You can go to the main library website, and I think there's like a separate box like ask a librarian a question, and they're actually not just, what are your hours, or what section would I look in for books on air traffic control, but they're actually research librarians. These folks are good, and so you could say, hey, I'm looking into this particular problem in this particular industry, and there are subject area librarians. You want to look for the one kind of closest to you, and you can email them this question, and these librarians, they love research. That's why they get into this. So they'll be like, okay, well, do you mean this or this? And they might fine-tune it a bit, and then they will come back with resources and stuff you can't even imagine. It's so good. So even if you don't use that for this report proposal, because it doesn't have to be that intense, do keep it in mind. It's a great resource, and I hope that when you do use Google Scholar for Discussion Post 11 that you find that it's a good resource too. I strongly endorse it. So that's about it, and hope you have a good week, and that you don't miss me too much.